Welcome to another episode of Reverse Ambition, a podcast that features those who take a leap of faith to follow their dreams and passion. My name is Kelsey Cooper, the social broker, and today we have a real one, ladies and gentlemen. He's a former New York City police officer. He's a former New York State senator. He is currently the Borough President of Brooklyn, the first African American to be elected to that position. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Eric Adams. How you doing, sir?
Hey, brother. How are you, man? So good to be on your podcast. And it's deep, the name of it, Leap of Faith, because, that is really, it personifies my story. And sometimes, people look at the titles that you held and they believe that there's something special about you to allow you to get there, and they think your book is just one big romance novel. When in fact, in the pages of my book, from the beginning to where I am now, there's been a series of different types of books. There's been love stories, been novels, there's been tragedies.
Wow.
It has been comedies. It's an accumulation.
Okay.
And so it's just about a leap of faith.
Yeah. All right, so let's get it started, man. I'm eager to hear this journey. The first question I usually ask is, walk me through your journey in terms of where you were born, where you went to school, and what was your ambition then compared to what it is to what you end up being now. That sounds good?
Without a doubt. Born in Brooklyn, Brownsville. It was a different place back then.
Mm-hmm.
I used to think that down the block it was Broadway. I thought that was the same Broadway that Sammy Davis Jr. would hang out on. Little did I know that
Right.
was not the reality.
Uh-huh.
But came from an amazing mom who just instilled the right energy in all of us.
All of us
really,
being like how many?
6 of us.
Okay, wow.
6. It was 6 of us, 4 boys and 2 girls.
Okay.
And it was that foundation. When we talk about leap of faith, that's who she was. Mom just, from the time she left Alabama to the time she came to New York, it was about just taking a leap of faith.
Wow.
And the story that I always share that really defines her, she was wise. A lot of people are intelligent and academically gifted, but they're not wise. Wisdom is a big difference. And Mom was wise, and so she would clean other people's homes and iron their clothing. And I remember her coming home one day. I can remember like it was yesterday, and saying that I'm going to move my family out of Brownsville. Crime was high. Drugs was high, violence, there was a lot of street gangs, and she was ironing shirts and towels and going and cleaning the houses of people.
Wow.
And people laughed at her when she said she was going to leave Brownsville, and she just had another vision. And so Mom then eventually saved up enough money for us to move to Queens, to buy a house in Queens.
Nice.
South Jamaica, Queens. And when she went to the closing, the person she cleaned his house was the attorney for the bank at the closing.
Wow.
And he said, Dorothy, what are you doing here? And she said, this is my house.
Wow.
And so she finished the closing. Went to his house. She cleaned up for him, and when she finished, he fired her.
What?
And he says, "How dare you think you're going to buy a house?" And
what?
she said, "Son, yeah, no, it's deep." She said, "Son, I went into the train station. I cried out and I screamed. I yelled as the trains went by. Then I dried my eyes and I went home. And I said, I got to keep this house for my 6 children." And it was routine for us. People used to call us the glad bag because we used to bring a glad bag to school every day. People didn't realize she made sure we carry clothes with us because we thought the marshal was going to come and throw us out.
Wow.
And she didn't want us to be embarrassed by not having clean clothes.
Wow.
and she took a leap of faith, man. And every time.
And she's a single parent. Single parent, huh?
My dad was there. He was there and he was not there. My dad had a good heart. He was a beautiful person, but he was a terrible father. Sometimes we force fatherhood on folks when in fact it's not their role. Not everybody fits every role.
Right.
And so she navigated it, and she still lives in that house today. I moved her out 8 years ago, moved her into a hotel, and we gutted the whole house and rebuilt it for her. She said,
nice.
Baby, every day I feel like I'm in a hotel.
Nice. She deserves all that, man.
Oh, man, and some. But, but that's the foundation of where, I came from a mother with a spirit and energy like that.
So was the move to Queens better? Jamaica, Queens better, or compared to Brooklyn?
Well, it was a different place, but life is interesting. Every new level, there's a new devil. And
I like that.
And you're going to deal with new challenges. Folks who believe that they're not going to have to deal with challenges at every level, they just setting themselves up for failure. So we moved to Queens, went to PS 140, then IS8. At 15, I was arrested. My brother and I were arrested, yes, in South Jamaica, Queens. Cops beat us bad, kicked us in our groin repeatedly. And
why you guys were arrested? Just because, or
I used to run numbers in South Jamaica, Queens. Yeah, and for this cat that was a pimp, and his one of his girls broke her leg, and we were taking care of her while her leg was broken, and she owed us money, and we took the liberty of removing her TV, and they charged. We liberated it.
All right, I get it.
And they charged us with they charged me with, I think, criminal trespass, and they charged my brother with burglary. And it was after that terrible encounter with the police, it just turned my brother off, and it just made me angry. I still think today my brother deals with mental health issues because of that beating.
Man.
And we suffered from PTSD. Every time we saw a police car, we thought about that beating. Every time I saw a TV show, every time I heard a siren. So it wasn't until the 80s that I was in an organization called National Black United Front. Reverend Herbert Daughtry from the House of the Lord Church. He came to 13 of us, and he told us that after a brother named Randolph Evans was shot and killed by the police. We used to fight against police brutality in the National Black United Front. And when Randolph Evans was shot and killed by housing cops, Reverend Herbert Daughtry and the other leaders of Black United Front told 13 of us to go into the police department and fight from within.
Wow.
And I was like, you out of your mind, man? It's these cats that beat us down.
Right. So that's how you became a cop?
Yes.
So you had no ambitions of being a cop, huh?
Hell no. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
But they had enough wisdom to know that in order for us to deal with the pain of that beating, we had to go within, because that was a demasculation.
Right.
And so I went in with a vision, man. Some people used to say, man, this guy's crazy.
Right.
But they didn't realize I was fighting a demon within.
Right.
And so it was after going into the police department that we started 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. And we fought against police abuse, and people didn't realize we were there on a mission. We had an assignment to do. I didn't expect to do 22 years. I thought that,
How long you initially thought you were going to be in and out?
A week.
You didn't think you were going to get selected, huh?
Man, listen, I was buck wild, man. People would tell you during those days I was buck wild. Because the whole
Wow.
thing was I was like, fuck it.
Right, right,
I'm
right.
I'm I'm going back to my computer. I wanted to be Cisco qualified. So I was
Mm.
like, listen, every day I was coming in there I was a rookie stirring up stuff.
Word.
Because the mission was not to be there long.
Right,
And just to go there, raise the fuss, and bounce. The fastest way to get bounce was to raise the fuss.
right.
You
And they didn't
know,
bounce you,
and
though.
so no, because I live by a rule: you can't be strong and wrong.
Mm.
So if I'm going to be there, I'm going to study. I'm going to continue to move up in rank. Even though I didn't think I was going to be there a long time, I still said that, you know what, I'm going to apply myself, no matter if I'm here or not.
Right.
And so I studied and became a police officer special assignment. Then I became a sergeant. Then I became a lieutenant. And I became a captain. And in the end of my career, they tried to fire me.
Mm-hmm.
In my career. But what was powerful is that the journey, as I talk about the love affair, the tragedies, and the comedies, is that, Mom saw me going from breaking the law to becoming a cop, enforcing the law, and then I went to Albany to write the law and become the
Wow.
first black borough president. And
Right.
so, you don't surrender. Don't never give up. No matter, being down does not mean you're out. And end of the road, as I say, a bend of the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn.
Right.
And I just continue to make the turn. Every time I hit that bend, I didn't misinterpret it.
Mm-hmm.
And the deep part is, the most important part that I want all your listeners to know. Listen, man, ain't nothing special about me, man. I was a solid D student in high school. I was
Did you
just
go to
a
college?
grinder.
Did you go to college at all?
Yep. It took me 14 years to get my master's. I did 2 classes every semester.
Wow.
My son was born. I had to break it down to 1 class. And I grind.
Right.
I grind, man. I knew my weaknesses. I knew my strengths.
Right.
And I knew that other cats can study for an hour. I knew I had to study for 6 hours. There ain't no thing, but
right.
the name of the game, I just grind.
You work 10 times harder than everybody else, huh?
That's all, brother. That's all.
Right. All right. So go ahead.
And so that was the complexity of the beginning that laid the foundation to who I was and who I am and the commitment of my dedication to our people. Our people went through struggles, and during that journey of, as I was sharing, of in South Jamaica, Queens, I'll never forget. We used to go to this small church, small storefront church. We used to call it. I used to call it a Cheers Church. Mm-hmm. Everyone knew your name, and everyone was glad you came.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to go to service during the day, go home, eat, and then go back at night.
Mm.
And that middle part, rarely happened. We didn't eat. We just went home and just kicked around. But one day, after we finished the day service, or the evening service, a car caravan of women pulled up to our house, and they started unloading boxes of groceries from their cars. And I was so happy that night, around 2 in the morning, I went downstairs and looked in the boxes. All the boxes were open. Half a box of spaghetti, half a box of cornflakes. Everything was like in halves or in thirds. Mm. Those sisters could not afford to buy us groceries. They gave us half of what they had.
Wow.
And they just wanted to provide for us. There were many days we would go out on Easter and there'd be 6 pairs of shoes on the back porch that someone donated to us. Or there would be a pair of slacks or pants or some sneakers. And, so when I hear people talking about they don't want to help homeless people, there was growing up back then, there was no goddamn homeless. Mm. You know what I'm saying? Mm. You took your neighbors in. Mm. You provided for your family. You made a way. You knew Dorothy had 6 children. She needs something to eat. Hey, Block, let's get together and get that family something to eat.
Nice.
Nice. That's what it was about. And that's the root of what I was built on. And that's what I went into policing. So you'll get folks who will criticize me and say, well, you know what? He's police. We don't like police. And he's pro police. No, I ain't pro police. I'm pro public safety.
Wow.
That's what I am.
Wow.
People want to rewrite the history, but I was in this city when we were having 2,000 homicides a year. And East New York was called murder capital because of so many deaths.
I remember that.
And grandmothers used to stand on lines at NYCHA buildings to get in their apartments because crack dealers controlled the entire building.
Damn.
And we used to walk home young girls from school because their sisters were raped or molested or sexually abused. I know that part of the city.
Right.
And so I don't want a cop in blue uniform shooting our people like Diallo, and I don't want somebody in a blue jeans selling crack on my corner and shooting up my corner, because no mother get a consolation prize that if she lost her child to a racist cop or to some gangbanger.
Right.
And that's the reality of it,
right.
And so we must be safe. That's how I am. And some people interpret it as, well, you know what, you pro cop, you interpret it as any way you want.
Right.
Just don't hurt my community.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
So you said at the end of your career, police officer, you said 23 years? You did
22. 22. And they flew by.
So you said you went into politics after. What inspired you to okay, I'm done with this part of my life. I'm going to go into politics now?
Just seeing every day, man, walking into NYCHA apartments and watching children sleep in crates in kitchens. Just watching the destruction, having young people you arrest and they can't write their names. And it started to dawn on me that policing was just treating the symptom and not the underlying cause. And I said, wait a minute, man, these laws and these rules need to be changed. And I started hanging out with some of the elected officials and realizing that many of them some were not committed to real change. And then I started meeting elected officials like Al Vann, Annette Robinson, Arthur Eves, these powerful, legendary figures who changed the game in the landscape of this city. And I said, you know what? We can do some real things. And I tell your listeners, they need to go read up on what Al Vann did, what Arthur Eves did, the laws that they passed and how it impacted lives. A lot of cats think that the things that they are benefiting from now, that all of a sudden it dropped out of nowhere. No, man, Negroes had to fight.
Right. Right. Right.
People gave up a lot, and you look at the creation of Medgar Evers College. You look at the Voting Rights Act. Al Vann, an assemblyman, had a major case of presented in front of the Supreme Court that dealt with the voting rights here in Brooklyn, changing the congressional lines, fighting for congressional seats. These guys were pioneers, man. And so I said, you know what? If I take that same energy I took into the police department into politics, then I could be a formidable force. And I could fight and do some things that's really strong and really progressive and to change how we govern our city. And so that's why I said, it's time to move on and go into politics. I ran for state senate. Several people were in the race. When I got in the race, everybody got out. I ran unopposed. I ran for.
Why they got out? They were scared of you? Why they got out?
Man, I was doing my thing.
Okay.
I had a name.
Oh, okay.
I had a name by that time.
Okay. How long since you left the police department before you ran?
The police department was trying to bring me up on departmental charges because I challenged them for not deploying police in communities of color after a terrorist threat. And so I was on my way out the door. I was Giuliani I'm
Oh,
sorry,
that
Mayor
dude.
Bloomberg and Commissioner Kelly. Yeah, yeah. Let me tell you I'll tell about him in a moment. You put an asterisk on that. So,
Right.
Commissioner Kelly and the rest of them, they said, you know what, we're gonna move on this cat.
Trying to make an example of you,
And I
huh?
was right. And I went from in 2005, I retired. In 2006, I was sworn in as a state senator. So didn't miss
Damn.
one beat. Yep.
Damn.
Didn't
So they
miss.
kind of help you, huh?
Right.
Without
People would
even
say
them trying.
that. No, listen. When man meant to harm you, God makes to help you. And I just keep it keep it moving. And it was a good run, man. I learned so much in policing, and it was an amazing career. And I learned how the power. Let me tell you something. Law enforcement is one of the most powerful institutions in this country. And don't let anybody fool you. That's the original gang. And they're extremely powerful. Think about this for a moment. What other institution has the authority to take away two of the most important rights we have as Americans? The right to freedom and the right to your life. Law enforcement.
Damn.
The president can't even take your life.
Damn.
The president can't even take your freedom. Law enforcement is the only entity that has the authority to take your life and to take your freedom. That's a lot of power.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm glad you were in, bro. I'm glad you went in and you raised hell. So okay, now you're in the Senate. How was that experience, and what challenges did you face in there?
It was deep. It was we when we got to the Senate in politics. The goal is to be in what's called the majority party. Like the battle we're having in Washington right now between who's in the majority and who's in the minority. If you're in the majority, that means you have more elected members of your party and you control hundreds of billions of dollars in the state and in the city, and trillions of dollars if you're on the federal level. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of resources. And so while I was in the Senate, I came into the Senate. We were in the minority. The first term after I got there, we took over the majority. Prior to that, it was over 70 years since we were in the majority.
Wow, we talking about Democrats or
right?
Okay.
Democrats. We were in the minority for over 70 years.
Wow. It makes sense. It makes sense of all that stuff that happened in New York.
There you go,
how
brother.
it happened. Why it happened.
All that money, billions of dollars, was going outside our city because at that time there was only a small number, 3 or 4 senators that were Democrats. And so our community was denied resources. It was denied services. It was denied laws. We were just in a real bad place because we were in the minority for all those years. And so once we got in the majority, we were able to do real things. I was one of the co-sponsors of the Rockefeller drug law bill to reverse the Rockefeller drug law, which was deep because when I was a sergeant, I used to protest at Rockefeller Plaza with a man named Randy Credico to denounce the Rockefeller drug law and force the state legislators to reverse the drug laws. Cass was going to jail for 25, 30 years for possession on small quantities of drugs, and it was destroying lives. And so when I got to Albany, I was able to co-sponsor the bill to reverse the Rockefeller drug laws.
Nice.
We sponsored a bill to deal with stop and frisk. They used to keep a database of everyone they stopped and questioned. 1 million black and brown boys are being stopped a year. They used to keep a database of all of those names. Hakeem Jeffries and I, who's now a congressman, we were able to get that bill put in place, and became a law that they could no longer keep that database
Nice.
inside the police department. And so we use the platform of the state to implement real laws during the time we were in the majority, and it was a very powerful period to be there. And I was proud to be there and continue to move forward some progressive legislation with some progressive ideas.
Mm-hmm. So wow. So wherever you went, you've been impactful, bro.
But this brother just grinding. That's my term, grinding.
Grinding.
Just taking leaps of faith.
Wow.
That's the goal. Just taking leaps of faith.
Facing the man, challenging the man.
Right. And that's what life is, man. Life is challenging. And so when you look at the Borough of Brooklyn, we had an extremely popular Borough President, and Marty Markowitz. Yeah, Marty was here for a long time. We're two different people. Our styles are different. I was really focused on, using this office to uplift people.
Right.
We were dealing with some real crises in this borough. Unemployment, poverty, housing. Our young people were dealing with real crises, and I wanted to focus on that. I didn't want to focus on some of the things that my predecessor did. He had his moment, and people were saying, he has big shoes to fill, and I was like, listen, I'm bringing my own pair of shoes. I'm not trying to fill anybody's shoes.
That's gangster.
I got my own agenda. I got my own agenda. And so,
but what inspired, those are the things that inspired you to leave the Senate and become, go for Borough President?
Because 21 years ago, when I saw how we can make this city run right. Mm-hmm. My mentor was a man. I had some very influential and positive role models in my life, and two people come to mind. One was a man named Jack Maple. The other one was a man named Bill Lynch. Mm-hmm. Bill Lynch, Jack Maple was a law enforcement extraordinaire. He took my computer skills. Because when I went into the police department, I was a computer programmer, and he took my computer skills and showed me how we can make the city safe by policing in real time and using technology. And I was part of the team. I was part of a team of computer programmers who looked at monitoring policing and crime in real time, gave way to something we call ComStat Now. And in 1 year, we went down 400 homicides. 25 years later, those 2,000 homicides have disappeared, and we're one of the safest big cities in America. Mm-hmm. And I spoke with Bill Lynch about that. And Bill Lynch told me, I said, Bill, this city can run better if every agency in the city went to a real-time model of governing. Our city will function better. Our Department of Education, our Department of Building, our homeless services, our healthcare institutions. Right now, we run cities all across America. We run them based on annual reports. So we try to fix problems after the problems have occurred. And one of my favorite quotes came from Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and I'm paraphrasing. He says, "We spend a lifetime pulling people out of the river. No one goes upstream to find out why people fell in the first place." We need to govern upstream. And so I shared that thought with Bill Lynch, and he told me, he said, "Eric, you have an associate's degree. I need you to go back to college and get your bachelor's degree, so you can say you're a college grad." Instead, I didn't stop. I went back and got my master's. He says, "You are a sergeant. I need for you to become a lieutenant, go up one more rank so you could be in management." I didn't stop. I became a captain. He says that you need to get elected to become a state senator so you can learn how to write laws. I got elected to the state senate. He says you need to then become a congressman or a borough president. I became the borough president. And he says once you do those things, you'll be on your way to become the mayor of the city of New York, and you can govern how to implement the plan you said you want to implement. And so now in 2021, I'm going to finish the last level of this journey and try to
You
become
sure?
the
You
mayor
sure about
of the
that? You
city
sure
of
that's
New
gonna be the
York.
last level? You sound like you got a lot more. You sound like you got a lot of. You sound like you're 20 years old, bro. You look, you ready to go.
No, that's the end of the journey, man. There's so much more to do in life. As you started out in the beginning of this, and which is fascinating, that it's about purpose, finding your purpose. And I don't think anything is, there are tragedies in life, and then there are Shakespearean tragedies. And I think it's a Shakespearean tragedy when you don't live a purposeful life.
Okay.
When you don't realize your life has purpose. And my life has purpose.
When
and
did you
purpose
identify your purpose in life?
That's a great question. I've always felt and believe, I should say, that, I've been blessed in so many ways, and I believe with all of me that, and I'm afraid that I'll lose my blessings if I don't continue to give blessings.
Deep.
I have tenants in my building that have been in my building. I have a 4-family house, and I have 3 tenants. And when my tenants moved in with me almost 15 years ago, they signed a lease that I said to them, I would never raise your rent as long as you're here. And I never raised their rent because I said, why do I have to charge them more? My mortgage is paid. And when you give back, you get back. The universe is plentiful. And people who walk around with their holding and hoarding everything, that's why they never have anything.
Right.
And so to me, that's my purpose, giving back in a real way. And let me tell you something, brother. I tell people all the time, it's not about the destiny, it's the journey. It's the journey. Being mayor or not being mayor may not be my destiny. It may not be what's meant for me. It may be what I'm learning by going through the process of getting to become mayor, may be what I really need to get to what I'm really supposed to be.
That's deep.
So I'm just enjoying the destiny. If I wasn't
just enjoying the journey. Enjoying the journey.
I wouldn't be talking. Right. I'm enjoying the journey. I wouldn't know you.
Right.
I wouldn't know some of the fine people that I met in life. So I'm just in this destiny, man. I'm this journey. I'm not caught up on the success. I won't be defined by if I reach something or not. I want to be defined by the journey and how well I did the journey.
So,
and that's a good place to be.
Oh, definitely. So, being the Borough President of Brooklyn, what do you think about New Brooklyn versus Old Brooklyn?
I'm the man to ask, man, because I'm the cat that told folks go back to Ohio and go back to Iowa.
Oh, you're trying to be mayor. You don't care, huh?
Listen, you're going to come with your arrogancy and your nastiness, and people didn't really understand it. That was an entire speech. I encourage everyone to download my Dr. King speech because it was a speech. It wasn't just one comment. I talked about the fact that we define crises differently. Black mothers, a black woman dies from maternal morbidity 12 times the rates of white women, yet we see no national movement to address it. We see our federal and state lawmakers move at a rapid pace. Whenever there's a shooting in a suburb from an assault rifle, but we don't move at that same pace when there's a shooting with a handgun. America doesn't have an assault rifle crisis. It has a handgun crisis. But the victims of handguns are black and brown. But we can't get legislation passed at all. But we move rapidly when there's an assault rifle shooting somewhere. The largest numbers of shootings in this country comes from handguns. But the victims are black and brown and in many cases poor. I've talked about the fact that young black and brown boys all over this country, not only in New York, but go to the south side of Chicago, go to Compton, Go to Mississippi. All over the country, black and brown boys are uneducated, dropped out of school, low employment, highest level of diseases, most incarcerated, mostly the victims of the crime. No other ethnic group will tolerate their children being treated this way and remain silent. So when we have people moving into cities, Washington, New York, parts of Chicago, and displacing communities with a level of arrogancy and using city agencies to close down legitimate businesses, that's a problem. And we can't sit back and ignore it from happening. And then you have landlords who are displacing long-term seniors, and people act like they discovered Brooklyn, Brownsville, Bedford-Stuyvesant, East New York, and don't even want to say good morning.
Right.
Have your dogs pissing or defecating on my yard and don't want to pick it up. And then you're going to be discourteous, complaining about noises come from buildings on Sundays, which happens to be our black churches that have been there that long. I got a problem with that. I got a problem with that.
Damn. Well,
and for people who said that it was racist, that's bull, because black people come from Ohio also. And if they come with that same attitude, they don't need to be here just as well.
Right.
You come here and you embrace the city and you become part of the city.
So if you had a perfect, vision of what Brooklyn looks like and operates, what would that perfect vision be based off, what you see the best of Brooklyn should be?
The beauty of diversity. 47% of Brooklynites speak a language other than English at home. You can walk into a Chinese restaurant, have a Russian cook make you a Jewish meal that he learned from his Polish girlfriend that took a cookbook with an African-American or Caribbean. That's our diversity. That is the beauty of Brooklyn. We have this fusion. You can move around this borough and you see people who can really live their lives and really enjoy the diversity of this borough. That's the Brooklyn I want. I want a Brooklyn where it doesn't matter where your neighbor came from, but your neighbor is embracing you, not trying to build small communities within your communities and patronizing local businesses. That's a Brooklyn that we like. And there are parts of Brooklyn like that. There are people that come from all over the globe and come to Brooklyn and they melt into Brooklyn. They become part of the energy and they bring their flair into Brooklyn, their artistic experience, their creativity. Those are the people we like in this borough. And so no one should get it twisted. It's not about saying we don't have a welcome mat for all groups, but your welcome mat cannot turn into a displacement mat. It must be that we are inclusive together in the borough.
Right. Now real estate is popping in Brooklyn, and because of that, a lot of old Brooklyn is getting displaced. How do we address that issue? How do we get old Brooklyn to stay put, and not only stay put, to let people know that we've been here way before you guys have, so fall in line? How do we empower old Brooklyn based on what's going on now with new Brooklyn trying to be loud and call the cops for every little thing, and looking at you like you don't belong here, and landlords trying to kick you out because they know they could get high rent and all that stuff? Right,
and that's a great question. And government has to play a role in that. We have to build housing that's affordable to all Brooklynites. That is one of the roles that government must play. Our housing stock must be affordable. We must play a major role in ensuring that we go after those landlords that attempt to displace people illegally. You damage property so that people can't stay in their homes. That's criminal mischief. They need to be locked up. You throw people out of their homes, that's illegal eviction. They need to be locked up. You create a fire to burn people out, that's arson. They need to be locked up. We need to send a message. Until you have landlords on perp walks, you're never going to send the right message that you're serious about not displacing people. Then we need to build senior housing. We need to build real senior housing. I believe we can build that on NYCHA property where you have a lot of seniors who no longer need all the space that they have in their apartment, but it makes no sense for them to leave, because if they leave, they're going to move them out of the borough, out of the community. You spend 30, 40 years in a community, you don't want to be displaced out of your community. And so that's why I believe that senior housing on NYCHA property should allow seniors to remain in their community so they can have a place that's familiar for them, and they could be a part of the evolution of the community. So we have to be creative and ensure that people have an affordable place to live. Housing is a right, and we need to make sure that people have that right who have been here in this borough for a long time.
Now we're talking about New York and all that's going on in New York now. You mentioned a lot of seniors. What does it look like in the hospitals? And we're talking about COVID-19 and the pandemic that's going on right now. How are you, managing that? What do you see, in terms of the obstacles, the hospitals, and just Brooklynites? How are they managing the situation?
Great question, brother. And I need for you to really hear me on this, because people, oftentimes, we address things in the space of where we are and don't have a real view of it. So coronavirus needs to be examined on many levels. We can't come out of this where some people are substantially negatively impacted based on than others are. All of us are going to get a hit. But you know the saying, you know it better than me. When America catches the cold, black folks catches
pneumonia.
There you go. We all know it. We catch the flu, pneumonia, or in some cases even death. And that's where we are. That's where we are right now. And so you have to be careful of the terms that are being used, and you must drill down on those terms. When folks start talking about the telecommuting, we are not the telecommuters. We are the supermarket employees that must be on duty. We're the train operators, the bus operators. We are the 911 operators. You go to 911 over on Fulton Street, and you see predominantly black and brown women that are inside that place. They have to be there every day. They're essential employees. And so when you start having a conversation about telecommuting, you are talking to the elite of the city. You're talking to the managerial staff, and you're talking to the highest staff for the most part. You got a few of us sprinkled into able to do their jobs at home, but for the most part, those are the managerial staff, the elite staff, and those managerial staff are not black and brown people for the most part. And so telecommuting is not our job is not a telecommute. You can't telecommute if you're a bus driver. You can't telecommute if you are a train operator, if you are the produce person in a supermarket, if you the person that unload those boxes. That's not a telecommuting job. And so everyone who's working now are essential employees, and those essential employees must get the necessary equipment they need so that they are not impacted by this virus. Second, we got to fight this virus on two fronts. We can't only fight the virus on the front of the hospital. That's the crisis. That's the front line. But we can't feed the crisis. What do I mean by that? If we know that the individuals who are most susceptible to having a fatality around this are people who have pre-existing conditions, who are over 60, who deal with chronic diseases. I just gave you the description of NYCHA in inner city black and brown communities, lack of access to health care. So we need to be giving them the tools they need that they don't end up with the virus. That's masks, gloves, education. That's why I was in NYCHA these last few days, giving NYCHA residents masks that they can wear and tell them when they go to the supermarket and all the tips that they need, because the information is not trickled down. I was in Canarsie the other day talking to a group of young people, and they were playing basketball. And I said, listen, hey brothers, y'all need to be, social distance. And they were like, what the hell is social distance? And it hit me. Every community doesn't run to the cafeteria. Run to the local store to buy the New York Times. Everybody's not sitting down listening to Cuomo's debriefing and listening to Trump. I got Korean populations in Brooklyn that don't speak English at all. Who's telling them about what they need to do? I have communities that don't live in this echo chamber that we live in. And we have to stop believing because we're listening to Cuomo and de Blasio and Trump that everybody's listening to them. There's a whole body of people that are not aware of what, how this virus passed and don't know what they're supposed to do. We got to communicate to everyone. And that is what I'm doing.
Well, how you doing? Just going locally, door to door?
On the ground, brother.
Wow.
On the ground.
Wow.
Generals don't lead from the rear. Generals lead from the front. One of my favorite movies that I love was Gladiator. In the scene where Russell Crowe spoke to his men before he went into battle. And he didn't sit back and say, tell me how the fight was. He led them into battle. That's for the generals. Those are the men I know about. And so I'm not going to tell a 911 operator to show up for work every day. I'm not going to tell the supermarket clerk to show up. I'm not going to tell the firefighter, EMTs to show up, and I'm home. No. I'm going to lead from the front. And so we're in the street every day. We're showing people how to survive this virus. And that's what it takes. That's the type of leadership we need, not only in this city and in our neighborhoods, but in this country. We need people who are willing to lead. That's what we need.
Listen. Yo, man, I feel like you were part of a dying breed, brother. People that get into this business for the real reasons why you need to get into this business. A lot of people get into politics because they have access to money, access to, influence and so forth. But you clearly in it for the right reason, man. And I appreciate, you for that, man. It's definitely feels good. Give me hope, bro, because you look at the politics situation right now from a national perspective. You're like, wow, look at these people just getting paid, off people's misery, and don't really care about the people, So that's a whole nother podcast. But just talking to you, man, give me a little bit of hope, man.
And we do things for different reasons, brother. And I'm paying off an installment. I'm paying off a debt. I've sold my mother into emotional slavery when she came into the precinct that day when I was arrested. And I'm paying off that debt, in the four installment plans.
Wow.
I paid off the first installment when I became a cop, the second installment when I became a senator, and the third installment when I became the borough president. And when I become the mayor, I could tell mommy I paid the full.
And your mother's still there, like proud of her son, huh?
That's right.
So
she has 6 children, and she loves them all, but she adores me.
So, in terms of your ambitions to become mayor of New York City, how do you see yourself impacting? Such a broad, because it's not only Brooklyn no more. It's not only, old Brooklyn or old New York. There's a lot of New York, out there who just care about their bottom line and don't really care about the people who's below them or, not as fortunate as them. how do you engage that population, and how do you impact New York where that wealth is shared amongst everybody?
Because there's a lot of wealth here, and we waste it. And as I tell people all the time, we have a $94 billion budget. You mean we can't run a city with $94 billion? We've got so used to wasting the resources of this city. And that's what it's about. It's showing how to manage this city, that we will no longer waste the resources of the city. And that is what I'm going to show people to do. This city can function. It can function much better than it is.
Function for everybody.
Use our tax dollars for everybody. There's enough in this city for everyone to benefit from. And it's unfortunate that because we have not learned how to stop governing downstream. It's more expensive when you have a downstream type government. You know, just look at one of the biggest conversations we had these last few days, a month, if not a year or so, was the closing of Rikers Island, where young people are incarcerated. That's a downstream mindset. Think about it for a moment. 80% of the men and women who are on Rikers Island don't have a high school diploma or equivalency diploma. A third of the 18-year-olds read below a fifth grade reading level. 55% have a learning disability, and 30 to 40% are dyslexic. If we solve their education problem upstream, they will not be talking about closing the building. We need to close the pipeline to feed the building. And that saves money. If we only spend $50 million a year, we can give children in foster care life coaches. So we won't have 12% enrolling in college and only 3% graduating, and having them drop out of school and not feel as though they're part of the city that they could be part of. We are responding to crises. One agency feeds the crisis, another agency responds to the crisis. No greater level than that, understanding of that, than the Board of Education. You know, a lot of people know my journey with diabetes. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Lost my sight in my left eye.
Oh, wow.
I was going to lose my sight in the right. Yeah. Doctor told me I was going to be blind in a year. I had permanent nerve damage that was going to lead to amputation, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And I decided that I wanted to take control of my health. And after going to 5 doctors that told me that it was hereditary, there was nothing I could do. My mother was diabetic. My sister and brothers were all diabetic or pre-diabetic. I went to switch my diet to a whole food, plant-based diet. And within 3 weeks, my vision came back.
Wow.
And within 3 months, 3 months, my nerve damage went away. And so
what's a plant-based diet? What is that?
It's stop eating all that meat. You know,
period.
If folks go online, if your listeners go online, trust me, everyone you have that's listening to your podcast knows someone that's dealing with a chronic disease. Trust me, and many of them are dealing with diabetes. But a whole food plant-based diet means that you are taking meat out of your diet and you're eating a healthy diet. Our bodies need nutrition.
No chicken, no beef, no fish.
I don't eat any meat at all. No meat at all. If it has a mother, father, or face to it, then it doesn't go in my mouth. You know.
How long you been doing this? How long you been, on this diet?
About 4 years now.
Wow.
And I had an ulcer. The ulcer's gone. No medicine, brother. No medicine.
Wow.
My 80-year-old mother was diabetic for 15 years, 7 years on insulin. She went whole food, plant-based, and in 2 months, she cycled off of her insulin.
Wow.
You know, the body will heal. The body wants to heal. We're the ones that destroys it. And you know what's deep about it? I have met some of the most intelligent, intellectual black people I've ever met in my life that have built businesses and great companies and corporations and graduated from some of the greatest institutions. You want to see some buffoonery? Tell them they got to give up that ham. Tell them they got to give up that fried chicken. They would build a business but destroy their body. I got cats I know that would drive around for hours to find the right gas to put in their car, the right oil to put in their car, but don't give a damn about the food they put in their body. We eat slave food, man. The food we eat comes from the plantation. You know?
Right. I mean, but there's a lot of, like, you know, I'm Jamaican, and there's a lot of West Indian, and there's a lot of cultural connection to eating meat, like the curry chicken, the curry goat, you know, the beef stew. I mean, how do you tell those people to, like, you know, drop that and embrace this plant-based diet? Plus, plant-based diet is, like, more expensive sometimes. Isn't it?
I want to answer both those questions because they're very powerful questions and they're real questions. Because food is not only what you put in your mouth. Food is how we define ourselves. And I'm clear on that. And so when you start going after someone's food, you're really going after, wait a minute, that's my aunt. My aunt gave me that recipe. Negro, what you trying to do? Tell me my aunt is poisoning me?
Right.
So I know there's a sensitivity. I know there's a sensitivity to it. But let me say this. We are of the era of enlightenment. And people need to dig into and find out why we need to be at a place in our lives now when we're no longer doing things just because we've always done them. We need to say to ourselves, how do we start doing this? And when you start to explore this thing we call culture, it became culture because the slave master said, you Negroes are not eating anything else but the garbage from our table. And that is what you're going to be able to eat. So now those of us who are the enlightened ones, we need to go back and say, why are we eating this? And when you start to dig into that, you're going to say, wait a minute, you know, these were the scraps from the slave master's table. So we have a question now. Do we perpetuate the slave master's tradition, who must be in his grave right now, and say, I don't have to worry about Ken Thompson being the first African-American district attorney because he's going to get colorectal cancer before he's 50-something years old. I don't have to worry about Eric Adams being the first black borough president. That Negro's going to be blind, and I don't have to worry about it. Jesse Jackson has Parkinson's disease. The bullet that killed Dr. King in Memphis didn't hit Jesse, but the food that the slave masters had us eating all these years is taking his life. That's food-related. Dementia, Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease, all food-related. So, you know, cats can say this is our culture. No, it's not our culture. Our culture is to live healthy and be kings and queens, not to be toxic and be poisoned by the slave master's ritual. And I know it's not a comfortable conversation, but we're not looking for comfort. We're looking for truth.
It's real. And that's, I mean, we want real, you know. Think about, like, you're right. Think about how we came up with these, you know, our diet. You know, the stuff that we've grown accustomed to eating, and, you know, all these different foods, and, you know, how has it impacted our culture. And it's not, I don't really believe in that thing about hereditary. I don't believe that crap at all.
It's not, brother. It's not our DNA, brother. It's our dinner. My neighbor that lived next to my mother died of diabetes. My mother had diabetes. They don't share the same DNA. They share the same dinner. They both ate the same crap. Listen, brother, this is not a coincidence that all of us have heart disease. All of us have diabetes. All of us are having these cancers. You know, this is not a coincidence. You know, you go in our community, you see junk food. You go into affluent communities, you see whole food. Listen.
And that's what we're talking about. Like, that plant-based diet is, like, ridiculously more expensive, you know, like a whole food.
Untrue. My food bill went down substantially. You can buy a bag of dry lentils, and you can make lentil burgers. You could have lentil soup. You could have lentils plain. One bag of lentils costs you $2. I buy a bag of black lentils, cost me $2. Those lentils will last me the whole week.
How
You know,
about
if
how about
I had a
access?
kid,
How about access? In terms of
is
in our
it,
neighborhood, access to like
the,
plant
the,
based stuff.
no. Listen, let me tell you something. I'm the first to tell you that the quality food in our community is not the same in others. However, what we're doing, we're showing people how to go in the supermarket and look differently in the supermarket. Look for the dry beans. Look for the dry black beans, kidney beans, dry lentils. Look for those food differently. Look for your fruits, your vegetables. Look for your kale, your lettuce. Look differently. Don't go in and go to those traditional junk food aisles that's everywhere with all of those pretty colors. How about being diabetic and drinking orange juice? You might as well just take insulin and hook it right up to your vein.
I love some orange
and I'm
juice.
sure you know some.
Man.
You might as well just hook up insulin to your vein.
All sugar.
And like none of all sugar. And no one. When I went to my 5 doctors, I asked them, "How did I get diabetes?" None of them could tell me. And if you ask the average person, how do you become diabetic? They'll argue you these other different ways: hereditary, too much carbs, too much sugar. No, man, you get diabetes. Diabetes comes from saturated fat. Clogs your arteries, and it doesn't allow the insulin to do its job. What is the number one producer of saturated fat? Meat. So no matter what you do, if you are diabetic and you still chopping down on that steak, you still going to be diabetic.
Right.
So that insulin, the drugs you are taking, the drugs you take does not cure you. It covers the symptoms, and it still destroys your body. That's what people need to understand. You are going down the path. So if I would have started out taking the metformin and insulin, I was going to then move to blindness. I was then going to move to limb amputation. I was going to then move to kidney failure. I was then going to move to death. That's the route.
And you won't be mayor. you won't be around for being mayor. So you said plant-based diets just changed our whole, trajectory.
My whole life, man. The whole trajectory, different life, spiritually. I just feel good. My body feels good. My mind is clear, man. Listen, man. Let me tell you something. Bad food is like crack.
Yeah.
You get someone hooked on crack, put them in one room, and someone that's hooked on fried this, jerk that.
But that's all in the neighborhood, by the way. All these fast food stuff, the Chinese store.
Yes.
All in the neighborhood, easy access and reasonably cheap. So.
Yeah, right. And it's about so I got a program. At Bellevue Hospital, the first of its kind in America. It's called Lifestyle Medicine, and we thought we were going to have a small number of people. We have over 700 people on the waiting list to get in the program, about 170 people that are in the program. They're cycling off their medication. They are reversing their diseases. They're living a different life. We're showing the possibility. Now, I want my community to be healthy. We're losing rappers at a young age. We're being diagnosed at an early age of all of these diseases. We're dying. We're dying. We have 84 million people are pre-diabetic. 30 million are diabetic. You're spending 80 cents on a dollar on chronic diseases. We can't live like this. The number one killer of black women in America is heart disease, and it's preventable and reversible by going on a whole food plant-based diet for the most part. Eating healthy.
Wow.
Now, listen, I know we've been running for a long time. You have to put this podcast in 2 sections.
It's good. It's good. I mean, I usually have an hour. I'm about to wrap it up, man. But before I wrap it up, I want, in terms of, you said you found your purpose by taking this journey. Any advice that you want to give my listeners in terms of how do they find a purpose, and live true to who they are?
Believe. Just believe, and believe. And don't, you got to just turn down the noise. just believe. There's a lot of noise, and I can't even tell you how many times people wanted to just get in the way. And I know folks out there that's listening to you, there are good days, there are bad days. There's going to be days that you would have wish you stayed in bed and days you wish you got out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the accumulation of all those days. And folks just have to believe. Believe in themselves, So people have told me all the time, no, I couldn't while I was doing. So that if I had one word to give people, it's just believe.
Believe in themselves.
And take a leap of faith. That's right. And take a leap of faith.
Well, Mr. Adams, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Same, brother.
I'm gonna have to fast track this podcast and release it like tomorrow because I feel like it's so powerful and it's so pertinent to what's going on today. And I appreciate you sharing all that knowledge and sharing your journey with us. And wish you a lot of luck and blessings. I think you'll make a great mayor, if not senator, if not president, brother. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like, your purpose, you have a purpose, is coming from a good place, and it's all about the people. And I think a lot of people forget about the people as they go on this political journey. So it was, like I said, it's a pleasure talking to you. And, good luck, man. Appreciate it. And good luck with these times, man. I know you're busy in these streets, trying to help our people. So good luck with that, because a lot of it's, we're not even at the peak yet. It's just the beginning.
No, it's not. No,
we got a long way to go.
You're right. You're so right. We do. And you know what? And we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. In life, there's only two options. You make it or you don't. And I believe we're going to make it. We'll be fine.
Brooklyn strong.
All right, my brother. That's right. Be well.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you all for tuning into Reverse Ambition Podcast. It is really a pleasure sharing these amazing journeys with you. It may take some time for you to find your purpose and realize your dreams, or for your purpose and dreams to find you. When it happens, don't be afraid to pursue them. Be more afraid if you don't. Trust God. Trust your journey, and most important, trust yourself, and it will all work out. Until next time, I am Kelsey Cooper, the Social Broker. Thanks again for listening.